Yet in another place we are told that Ibrahim himself was given a Sharia. And Sohaf Ibrahim of Musa. Ibrahim is bracketed with Hazrat Musa. Musa was a law-bringing prophet, so Abraham also was a law-bringing prophet. So this issue is resolved now. Why his age was mentioned? It was mentioned to indicate that his Sharia did not end until Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ was born and has grown to maturity, and until the age of 50 he followed the Sharia of of Noah, and from then on his Sharia came to an end and a new Sharia was revealed to Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ. You understand this? So all these things are well connected, and a very clear picture emerges as to what happened. Now Noah's age was given, and other descendants of Hazrat Adam are not even mentioned, which means that the Holy Quran does not agree with that version of the Bible, because if a person's age had been mentioned in the Holy Quran, like it has been mentioned in the Bible, who was not a prophet, then you could not have made this interpretation which I am making before you. Because then non-prophets' age would have been also mentioned, and for that there is no explanation, but you have to take that age literally. So why Noah alone? This is the reason why. Why after Noah no prophet's age was mentioned? Because Bible also does not mention the ages of the prophets following. So no confusion is created. And the Holy Quran wanted to to solve a confusion and to set the matters of history right.
Jazakallah. I'll ask some other if there is any time. There are some other people.
Just you go back and sit at the end of the queue again, please. Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Hazur, before I start my question, the relevant portion of the Holy Quran, Mr. Zakia will read, and I have got translation.
He will recite
the verse.
Okay.
Sorry.
Please.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أمن جعل الأرض قرارا وجعل خلالها أنهارا وجعل لها رواسي وجعل بين البحرين حاجزا أإله مع الله بل أكثرهم لا يعلمون.
Yes.
Hazur, the English translation for that is Surah Al-Naml,
yes.
Chapter 27, verse 62. Or who made the earth a place of rest and placed rivers in its midst and placed upon it firm mountains and put a barrier between the two waters. Is there a God with Allah? Nay.
Two waters or two oceans or seas?
The translation is two waters on the...
Okay, right, please.
Is there a God with Allah? Nay. Most of them know
with
not.
Allah, besides Allah, beside Allah.
I'm reading the translation exactly.
From which? From whom?
From this translation.
Translation of
Malakulam Farid Sahib.
I see, right.
I've just copied. Hazur, would you most kindly explain...
Also make a check-up from Hazrat Mauritius Sahib's translation. Yes, please.
If you like, he can read the English translation from that.
No, it's all right. You're doing it well. Okay, yes.
Hazur, would you most kindly explain to us whether the phrase "and put a barrier between the two waters" applies to any barrier between the rivers or seas, or this refers to any particular barrier between the two waters?
You see, the Holy Quran, when it speaks of the worldly affairs and the natural phenomenon does not in fact stop there, but by doing so it has a deeper meaning which should be understood, which goes along with the discussion which pertains to natural phenomenon. So this is the Holy Quran style everywhere. But the expression of the Holy Quran can also apply literally. This is the beauty of the Quranic descriptions. You do not have only to search the metaphors underneath the clear statements. The statements, whether they are historical statements of past ages or whether they pertain to scientific or natural phenomena, they are also to be taken literally, not only metaphorically. So this subject has been discussed not only in this verse, but in some other places as well. For instance, in one verse the Holy Quran says, "Maraj al-Bahraini yaltaqiyan bainahuma barzakhul la yabghiyan fabi'ayyi ala'i rabbikuma tukazziban." Between the two oceans, Maraj al-Bahraini yaltaqiyan, He will make the two oceans meet, and that is going to happen in the future. Future with reference to the time of revelation of this verse. Maraj al-Bahraini means he made them merge. The English word merge and Arabic word merge literally mean the same thing. So he made the two waters merge, who would merge later on. So that shows that the word merge here does not refer to the past, because this again is the Quranic style of making prophecies. The Quran many a time makes prophecies about the future in the past tense to indicate that this prophecy is most certainly going to be fulfilled, as certainly as the past is. As you cannot change the past, so it is impossible for anyone to change this prophecy. This is written indelibly and nobody can change it. This is again the style. And the word yaltaqiyan indicates more clearly that don't take it to be a happening of the past. It is something which is going to happen in future. Maraj al-Bahraini yaltaqiyan bainahuma barzakhun. At present, between them is a dividing land. Barzakh is a dividing portion, no man's land or period, it's something which separates two things. So at the present, there is a dividing land between them, or a dividing something. Barzakh can apply to metaphorical division as well as to material division. Bainahuma barzakhun la yabghiyan. So as long as that barzakh stands, and as long as God does not decide to fulfill the prophecy which has been mentioned before this, they will not be permitted to cross this barrier. This has literally been fulfilled twice in the recent past. Once through the Panama Canal. This canal made the two seas, joined the two seas and helped them merge. And then again in the case of the Suez Canal, where two seas, the waters of the two seas merged. But in fact, I think it is more strongly applicable to the merger of Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific Ocean by Panama Canal, because Pacific Ocean stands for the Orient, and Atlantic Ocean stands for the Occident or the West. So where the West and East will meet, or Western powers or Eastern powers will meet, that place seems to be that Central America where the Panama Canal was dug. So this has been literally fulfilled. In the other place, of course it has been fulfilled too, in the case of Suez Canal, but I think its metaphorical metaphorical interpretation would be different from the metaphorical interpretation of the Panama Canal.
Yes.
Now we have just seen the crumbling or tumbling down of this Berlin Wall. This wall has been demolished, and there also is a mention of a wall which separates the two big powers, Yajuj, Majuj and the rest. So that wall also becomes symbolic. But literally also there was a wall which separated east from the west. So that is why I mentioned the Panama Canal, because normally in Ahmadiyya literature you find mention of Suez Canal, and Panama Canal is relegated to the comparative less important place.
Yes.
I think should be the other way around. It is the merger of the east and west which is prophesied, which will be separated by some temporary man-made barriers, like the seas were separated by God-made barriers. As those barriers were to be removed, literally, they would stand witness that the metaphorical prophecy, which is in fact meant, would also come to pass, and nobody can change it. So about 1300 years plus some, Panama was built and was dug, and this prophecy came to be fulfilled literally. That indicated that the metaphorical part is following suit and nobody can stop it. Now West and East have now merged together by the detente following the as a demolishing of the Berlin Wall between America and Russia, the West and the East. What will happen following this is another story, and that should be understood with reference to what has been predicted about Yajuj Majuj in the Holy Quran and also in the traditions. You've got the answer of your question, or is there any part unanswered?
No, this is perfect.
Thank you.
One more question?
Yes, please.
Check the last question. Last one is there a God beside?
Is there a God beside? In the Mauritius Sahib's translation, the word is not with but beside. God beside, not with. I personally prefer this translation. Yes.
Yes. Anyhow, this is clear the point. I'll go to the next question.
Right, good. Did you say question or questions?
No, sir, the tradition has been set today that Chaudhry Rashid Sahib asked two questions. So
and then,
for the time being, I'll ask two questions.
All right, and then you will go back to the
yes.
end of the queue.
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
In an article published in the Reader's Digest, May 1987, pages 35 to 39, it has been said that a new virus carried in the genes of the animals have been discovered, which are becoming increasing risk of unknown range of diseases for the human being. If Hazur can allow me to, I can read little relevant passage from the book.
Please go ahead, do it, yes. Nowadays you make a lot of homework before asking a question. Thank you very much. Yes.
This is
Imran Khan, have you brought one question from, or one or two questions from Canada, or not yet?
Not yet, sure, make some.
Next time maybe, huh?
Scientists have found many other examples of jumping genes. Pigs have inherited DNA sequences that came originally from rodents. Skunks in North America are born with DNA that came from South American squirrel monkey. Trout carry genes somehow acquired from birds. This means that life on our planet is like a lending library in which one species can borrow bits and pieces of another genetic information. And when genes jump from one species to another, they can cause dramatic changes. Today, the world has become terrified of a recently discovered retrovirus that may have jumped from another primate. It is distantly related to a virus affecting African green monkeys to infect people with the disease called AIDS. The human immune system finds the AIDS retrovirus particularly hard to fight because it is still evolving many thousands of times faster than our own DNA and device protections. Last February, a closely related virus was discovered in cats, says leading AIDS scientist Professor William Jarrett of Glasgow University. Though this virus poses no threat to humans, the fact that it has jumped out of primates into another species is scientifically alarming because it could occur just and unpredictably the other way round. We may be at risk from a unknown range of diseases producers carried among the genes of other animals. There is a little sentence regarding the cure. Could I read that?
Please go ahead.
A new and fruitful avenue of research involves the vaccina virus, which has been a weapon against smallpox. The vaccina virus has been
Light please, in that direction.
I can't read without this. Please.
It will serve a double purpose. Yes, thank you.
A new and fruitful avenue of research involves the vaccina virus, which has been a weapon against smallpox. The vaccina virus has been genetically engineered to accept and carry parts of a medically important virus. Thus, it might be used as a vehicle to deliver portions of the AIDS virus to high-risk groups who should be vaccinated, thereby providing protection without producing the disease. Now my question is,
Yes, please.
could Hazur kindly enlighten us that how this discovery could impact the mankind in future and how people could be protected from such risks?
You see, I have already read about this, not in Reader's Digest, but in some scientific magazines. Now this, the cat got this virus from mice.
Yes.
And not from other primates.
Yes. Yes.
The fact is that that is what I was in search of, and that resolved a problem for me and made the whole picture very clear to me. The fact is that the AIDS virus is sex-related. Sex-related viruses are those viruses who spread through sexual contacts and not by other means, other natural means. Of course, you can inject them directly into the blood, that is different. But in the normal social behavior, they cannot be transferred from one person to the other except by the means of sex. So they are sex-related viruses. This is. And this virus has already been mentioned by Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a punishment to a society which has become not only permissive but also shameless. And he described it as ta'un, as a sort of plague. Hazrat Masih Maud was also told. Now this, let me make the first part clear first. Hazrat sallallahu alaihi wasallam once related that God had told him that those people who became over permissive in their sexual behavior and lose all shame and display themselves and expose their parts, etc., and feel no shame, they will be punished by a sort of disease which has been described appearing as a tumor first in the throat, and then this will destroy the people as punishment from Allah. Now keep this in view and remember that this AIDS virus has been permitted by God only to play havoc at a time when this modern age becomes a clear picture of what had been predicted by Anand Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and it has become that shameless society which has been mentioned. Now remember this, and now let's turn to Hazrat Masih Maud Wasallam. He appeared as the messenger from Anand Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the reformer, I should say, to remove misunderstandings, of the latter days, the promised Messiah, the Mahdi. If it were to happen in his age, I mean relatively his age, but otherwise the age of Anand Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, of course, till the end of the time, but in relative terms, if this prophecy of Anand Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was to be fulfilled in the age of Hazrat Masih Maud Wasallam, it is unthinkable that he himself would not have been told anything about it. So you read exactly a similar prophecy in Hazrat Masih Maud Wasallam's writings. When the first plague broke out in his time, and as it was gradually subsiding and dying out, Hazrat Masih Maud Wasallam wrote that God has told me that a sort of plague, not the plague, but a sort of plague would revisit the earth in Christian world, not in the non-Christian world, and it would punish them particularly. So this connects, and he said this would be a sort of plague. And the words used by Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam are very similar to this. And now when you read about the age being described by specialists, they have exactly started using the same phrase about it. They say it is a sort of plague. I have read it myself in scientific papers. Very often they refer to AIDS as a sort of plague. Now what was the missing link was that the plague is mouse related somehow. In the past it has always been mouse related. Mice were the carrier of AIDS, not the AIDS but the plague. So I was wondering what connection this AIDS had with mice. When I read that article in a scientific magazine, which referred to something which happened, which was discovered in San Francisco or thereabout, I think it was in California that it was first discovered, that a cat caught AIDS or a virus very close to AIDS from eating mice or something, of that nature. So this connected the whole link of events, and that further reassured me that to call AIDS a sort of plague is scientifically correct. Now, as far as the future of mankind is concerned, as I've already told you, this disease is self-related, sex-related. It did not occur accidentally. It is wrong for the scientists to conclude from their studies that these are accidents of nature. In the light of these predictions, they are certainly not accidents of nature, they are designs of nature, pre-planned by God and revealed even 1400 years earlier to Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there is no danger to mankind from any jumping of genes accidentally, because these things are well controlled by God. In billions of years of evolution, these accidents did not jump in the wrong directions. The evolution of life is well or coordinated and well planned and well linked from species to species with a certain orientation, and it is such a clear it's such a clear procession of evolution that it's impossible for you to misunderstand the events in the light of the study of evolution of life, and to consider them to have happened accidentally. So this is the point which is most important. When I study evolution, I am quite certain any sane man who studies evolution will rule out the game of chance or accidents. It is designed evolution. It is well organized evolution. And these jumpings which have been mentioned have not happened for the first time. They have been playing a very important role in the evolution of species. And mutation also is a type of jumping. And that these jumps have never been made in the wrong direction. They have always followed a set design and a set direction. So there is no danger for mankind whatsoever from these so-called accidents. As far as the prevention is concerned, you begin to lead a chaste life and you will be saved. No problem. Only you have to abandon this present promiscuous social or unsocial behavior.
Azur, in this connection, if you allow me a minute more.
No, I will allow you more after they have...
Same question, Azur.
We'll continue forever. Thank you.
No, just a minute only.
Please, okay, all right.
Azur, in this connection, when this article, the writer starts, the same thing which Hazur has said, he has started with that.
What is that?
During and moving, the friendly pet that rubs against your leg appears to be 100% cat, but scientists have discovered that in its genes, your pet is also a bit rat and a little bit baboon. Within its lifeline DNA, the genetic chemicals that spell out the blueprint of cat, researchers have found sequences of foreign genes, DNA, that somehow jumped in from rats and baboons. He starts that.
That's right, yes. And rats or baboons are both very important in this connection, because man's behavior, when it becomes depraved, has been described by the Holy Quran, in a manner of speaking, as the behavior of baboons or apes. That is why the Holy Quran, addressing a depraved society during the earlier period of Judah, during the latter period of Judaism, addressing these depraved people, tells them to revert to the earlier stage and become apes. Kunu kiradatan khasayin. Now, some Muslim scholars, many of course, have completely misunderstood the message, and they think that the Holy Quran means that you become literally, that you literally become apes, and as such they quote a concocted period of history, which has no foundation whatsoever. And they say there was a time that in one city, God told these Jews that you become apes, and they all became apes. But the angels cordoned off that town until all of them died as apes, and the news did not leak out. See how the chapter of the history remained, unnoticed by the historians. Many similar stories are written in the commentaries of some earlier Muslim scholars, because in that age they could not understand the true meaning of these verses. But now, for us, the time has advanced and we can see in a clearer vista what might have happened. So this mention of baboon reminds me that this beastly behavior of man, who in seeking more pleasure from sex actually begins to behave like animals, and in all his behavior he becomes a monkey, except for being physically turning into a monkey. In his behavior and his pattern of his pleasure seeking, he actually imitates monkeys. So that is the reason why the Holy Quran said, revert to the monkeys. That is to say, you, instead of stepping forward and evolving further, you are retarding back to the earlier stage of life. This cat, aid-carrying cat, has both the characteristics of a baboon in its genes as well as that of mice. Yes. And this fits perfectly well with the modern age behavior. That such a thing should cat aids. That's what I mean, Thank you. Yes, please.
This is not a question.
Yes, please.
As a backbencher, I have to make a request, sir, that those who are sitting behind the questioner, when he keeps on standing, we are unable to see you, sir.
Understand, please. Thank you. After the question has been asked, the questioner may kindly sit and wait here, of course, but he should not obstruct the passage of those who are behind him.
Assalamu alaikum. I have a controversial question for you.
Yes, please.
Recently I had the pleasure of attending 2 Aqiqah ceremonies, and at which, following the tradition of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, 2 lambs were slaughtered because it was a boy. If it had been a girl, it would have been 1 lamb. A non-Muslim friend of mine said to me, well, surely this discriminates against girls, and in spite of all your teachings about equality, yes, you have the fact that you seem to value boys more than girls. What sort of an answer would you give to a question like that?
Yes, of course, The teachings of the Quran and the instructions we received from Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam perfectly tally, and they have a deeper meaning which should be understood. The fact is that this instruction of Ahmad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is related to the law of inheritance as well. So in the Islamic law of inheritance, a boy is given 2 shares as against his sister girl, who inherits 1 share. If there is a boy and a girl in the family, the boy will inherit 2 parts and the girl will inherit only 1 part. Why? The reason is obvious. Those who understand the Islamic system, they know that the economic burden is laid on man's shoulders and not on husband's shoulders and not on the wife's shoulders. Man is responsible for running the wheel of economy in the house, and woman is not responsible for that. That is why I have been repeatedly declaring to the community that they should not look with greed to whatever their wives earn. This is entirely up to them. As they please, they can spend. Because the philosophy of sharing 2 parts is that they must share the burden more than the girls should. Now that is why right from the beginning the message is that you will have to spend more on boys than on girls. It is a burden twice for the boy, half for the girl, because sacrifice requires a financial burden. So it should be looked at from this angle, that when a boy is born, you are charged more. You have to pay more for the boy than for the girl. And exactly in the same order, when they die, when the person dies, a new sort of birth takes place for the children whose parents pass away. And the Akika picture is revived in the form of inheritance. So they are connected things. You understand?
Yes.
Yes, please. So in the long run, it is, if an objection has to be raised, it should be completely of a different form. It should be said that although men are given only twice as much as ladies, but the entire burden is shifted on the shoulders of men. Why so? The answer should be to that question. Not that Islam is partial to ladies, not to men, but because apparently it is partial to ladies. Answer to that also should be remembered, should be clearly understood by you. Man does not depend entirely on what he inherits. In the Islamic economic system, men must push the wheel of economy and women can do it only optionally. So in the job opportunities, in a truly Islamic economic society, the jobs which are men's jobs, particularly where there is more labor is involved, they would obviously will be only occupied by men like in all other societies. But those jobs which have 2 options, which can be performed by ladies as well as men, there men should be given preference in providing those jobs because they have a responsibility to discharge. And if there are optional jobs for the sake of national build-up, for the national building of national economy, women will not be left as just superfluous parts of the society. They are also permitted to participate in pushing the wheel of economy, but as an option. So as such, like what is happening in England nowadays, the rate of unemployment is rising. If men were given the employment here in preference to ladies, in a manner of speaking, but because they are made responsible for spending on their families, then it would be fair and understandable. But in the British society, it will not be fair and understandable, because here both men and women are made to participate in their day-to-day family meeting the day-to-day family requirements, and that is why the houses are divided and the properties are divided and so on and so forth. So because here is a completely different system in operation, so you can't understand properly what Islam means. It can only be understood in the context of an Islamic economic system which is in operation in a country. Then this is what I am telling you is bound to happen. Men will be employed first, and in those jobs where it is the men's job. In those jobs where there are two possibilities, they will be given preference over ladies. And then if jobs are left, then of course ladies will fill those jobs. Here again, one thing is very important, that it is not just the economy alone which is being addressed by these Islamic injunctions. This is deeply and closely related to Islamic social system. In Islam, it is not because the women are economically deprived or man is unduly burdened with economic responsibility that you come across these injunctions. They should be understood in the backlight of Islamic social system. In Islam, ladies are equipped with that special apparatus which is the apparatus for giving birth to children, uterus and all the concomitant things. Now that provides ladies not only with that mechanical arrangement, mechanical apparatus for bearing children, but also emotionally and in attitude of life, they become different from men to that degree. So they are more capable of looking after their children than their husbands are. Emotionally, they are more attached to those babies whom they carry for 9 months in their bellies than the men who are of course involved in the act, but only transiently, only in a passing moment. So that is why it is ladies who are more adapted and more suited to the job of looking after their children. If they were also made equally responsible for running the wheel of economy, then the poor children would be left without anybody looking after them. So the emphasis in Islam, in the Islamic social system, is on ladies to give priority to the responsibility of the future generation of mankind. And they are better suited to it. And emotionally, of course, they can offer much greater sacrifice for their offsprings than men can. That shows the reason why Islam treats men and women differently only in this small area, not in other areas. So Islamic economic system promotes an atmosphere in the society where women will have far more free time than in the non-Muslim societies to cater for the needs of the younger generation. So they should not be overburdened. I have seen here women appearing in some debates on television who sometimes, without knowing what is happening to them, express their their deep concern for themselves and other ladies. They say, look at what's happening to us. We bear children for 9 months, and then when the time to look after there comes, we are also involved in jobs and doing this and that. We hardly find time for our children. And babysitting is no answer to that. Because that also creates psychological problems for children. So you can't answer such questions as you asked in just short yes or no, crisp answers. All these things go together to make someone understand the philosophy of Islamic injunctions.
Thank you
right?
very much.
Thank you.
MTA International, reaching the corners of the earth.